Jillian Morrison glanced at her daughter in the back seat through the car's rearview mirror. Samantha was engrossed in something. With earbuds in her ears, she stared intently at her smartphone screen. As a librarian, Jillian felt somewhat conflicted seeing her 15-year-old daughter absorbed in her phone rather than a book. "Samantha, we're almost there." At Jillian's words, her daughter removed one earbud and looked up briefly. "Yes, I know." Though Samantha's voice carried the characteristic indifference of adolescence, her gaze reflected sharp intelligence. Jillian smiled at her daughter. She was as bright as herself and consistently maintained top grades in school. This was a source of pride, but also some anxiety, as it reminded Jillian of her own past. The car entered an upscale residential area in Boston's suburbs, passing through trees with autumn foliage. In the Thanksgiving season, colorful fallen leaves danced along the roadside. When her parents' large house came into view, Jillian unconsciously held her breath. She gripped the steering wheel tighter. "Mom, are you okay?" Samantha called from the back. Her daughter was keenly sensitive to her mother's tension. "Yes, it's just been a while." After parking in front of the house, the door opened, and Jillian's sister Laura appeared. Laura looked immaculate, her hair perfectly styled without even a hint of disarray. "Finally you're here." Late as usual, Laura's voice had a sarcastic tone. "Hello, Laura," Jillian responded calmly. Traffic was heavier than expected. "Hello, Samantha," Laura smiled at her niece. "How's school?" "Still at the top." Samantha nodded lightly. "I guess so." Just as expected from Jillian's daughter, Laura's tone concealed something behind the veneer of compliments. The inside of the house was decorated for the season. A Thanksgiving wreath hung at the entrance, and the living room table was adorned with autumn leaves and pine cones. Everything was perfectly arranged, like the cover of a magazine. This must have been Laura's work. She worked an administrative job at the local high school while living with their parents, as if maintaining her position as the perfect daughter. "Jillian, your room is upstairs." "The usual one," Laura instructed. "Please carry your own luggage." "I need to help Mom." While Jillian was bringing in the luggage, Samantha explored the living room. She noticed an elderly man sitting in a large armchair by the window. "Grandpa?" Walter Morrison looked up at his granddaughter's voice. His once vibrant expression was gone, and he gazed at her with tired eyes. "Samantha, you've grown." His voice was feeble. "How are you, Grandpa?" Samantha sat next to her grandfather. Instead of answering, Walter just smiled faintly. Samantha placed her hand over his. It was cold and trembling slightly. From the kitchen, the voices of Evelyn and Laura could be heard. As Jillian came downstairs, she saw her mother and sister preparing the meal. "Hello, Mom," Jillian approached Evelyn, attempting to embrace her. "Oh, Jillian," Evelyn briefly returned her daughter's hug but quickly pulled away. "I'm busy right now. Laura and I are preparing for the Thanksgiving dinner." "Can I help?" Jillian offered. "Laura knows best how I like to cook," Evelyn said. "Laura and I will handle it." Laura gave Jillian a triumphant look. "Don't mind Jillian's opinions. She chose her career over family. She became head librarian." "That's quite an accomplishment," Evelyn tried to defend Jillian, but her voice was weak. "But she's not here with us," Laura retorted. "I'm the one who stays with Mom and Dad, taking care of them every day." Jillian said nothing. This conversation was always the same. She didn't regret her choices, but her family always made her feel guilty. Samantha listened to the kitchen conversation from a distance. She was beginning to notice the strange power dynamic between her grandmother and aunt. On the surface, it seemed like her grandmother was in charge of the house, but in reality, her aunt appeared to be monitoring and controlling her grandmother's actions. In the evening, Jillian visited Samantha's room. Her daughter was lying on the bed, staring at the ceiling. "How do you like Grandma's house?" Jillian asked. "Grandma and Aunt Laura seem really close," Samantha said. "Yes. Laura is always by Mom's side. But..." Samantha paused, as if carefully choosing her words. Grandma seems afraid. Afraid? Jillian asked in surprise. What do you mean? I don't know. But Grandma looks like she's always watching Aunt Laura's reactions. And Grandpa seems really down. He talked a lot more when we visited last time. Jillian was surprised by Samantha's observational skills. In fact, she herself had sensed something unnatural in her mother and Laura's relationship since childhood. However, she had dismissed it as a child's imagination. Now, her daughter was feeling the same thing. It's probably just because they're getting older, Jillian said, though she felt a lack of conviction in her own voice. Tomorrow is Thanksgiving. Let's eat well and enjoy our time with the family. Samantha nodded silently. Doubt remained in her eyes, but she said nothing more. In the afternoon, Samantha explored the living room bookshelf. She found an old leather-bound album and pulled it out. Placing the thick, heavy album on her lap, she turned the pages to find photographs of her grandparents and mother in their younger days. Oh, looking at those old things? Evelyn entered the room. There are newer albums, you know. How about looking at Laura's accomplishments? But I want to see pictures of Mom when she was young, Samantha replied. As she turned the album pages, she came across a photo of Jillian's high school graduation. She was receiving an award on stage. Was Mom the valedictorian? Samantha asked her grandmother. Evelyn smiled and moved closer to the photo. Yes, Jillian was truly exceptional. Even in college, she received a scholarship. That's ancient history. Laura suddenly entered the room. Her expression darkened when she saw the album. What matters is who we are now, right? Samantha, I hear you're quite accomplished in school too. Top of your class. I guess, Samantha answered briefly. I wonder where that talent comes from? Laura smiled, though her eyes didn't. It must be the Morrison family blood. Our family has many talented people. Evelyn looked somewhat anxious at Laura's words. Laura, what about dinner preparations? Almost done. Mom, you just sit and relax. Tomorrow will be a busy day. Laura placed her hand on Evelyn's shoulder. The gesture seemed gentle, but there was something forceful about it. In the evening, Samantha peeked into her grandfather's room from the upstairs hallway. Walter was watching television alone. He stared at the news channel expressionlessly. Grandpa, may I come in? Walter looked up, startled. Samantha, of course. Entering the room, her grandfather straightened up a bit. Samantha sat on the edge of the bed. Are you okay, Grandpa? You haven't talked much since yesterday. Walter took the TV remote and lowered the volume. I'm just getting old. You talk less as you age. But the last time we met, you talked a lot. About your youth and how you met Grandma. A momentary light of nostalgia shone in Walter's eyes. That's right, once upon a time, everyone in this family could be themselves. What do you mean? Samantha tilted her head. Walter tried to answer, but the door opened. Laura entered and looked at the two of them. Dad, it's time for your medicine, she held a small medicine box. Samantha, Grandpa needs to rest. He needs to prepare for the big dinner tomorrow. Walter nodded silently and took the pills and water Laura offered. Samantha sensed an odd tension between her grandfather and aunt. Laura's eyes showed caution. Samantha, let's go downstairs. Your mom is looking for you. Good night, Grandpa, Samantha said. Good night, Samantha. Walter's voice sounded distant, as if the sleep-inducing medication was already taking effect. The next morning, Samantha woke up early. She quietly went downstairs and headed to the kitchen. There, Grandmother Evelyn was working alone. She was humming softly while rolling out pie dough. Good morning, Grandma. Evelyn turned around, startled. Samantha, you're up early. Can I help? Samantha offered. Thank you, but I'm fine. I've been doing this for decades. Evelyn smiled, but there was something sad in her smile. Samantha stood near her grandmother, watching how she made the pie. She noticed that Evelyn's hands were trembling slightly. Grandma, is there something bothering you? Samantha boldly asked. Evelyn momentarily stopped moving and looked around. After confirming they were alone, she said in a low voice. Samantha, you're such a smart girl. Just like your mother. Samantha waited. Evelyn was about to say something when suddenly the kitchen door opened. Laura entered and looked at the two of them. Mom, what are you doing alone? Laura's voice was calm, but her eyes were sharp. You don't need to make treats for Jillian. I'm not, Evelyn quickly said. It's just a regular pumpkin pie. A Thanksgiving staple, right? I see, Laura observed Evelyn's work. But are you following the recipe? Did you reduce the sugar as I told you? Yes, of course, Evelyn's voice grew quieter. Samantha realized that Laura was constantly monitoring her grandmother's actions. It seemed less like protection and more like control. Samantha, have you had breakfast? Laura turned to her niece. I prepared cereal for you. Thank you, but I'm not hungry yet, Samantha replied. Breakfast is important, Laura insisted. Especially for growing children. I'll eat later, Samantha said and left the kitchen. Jillian was helping set the dining room table, and Walter was watching TV in the living room. Samantha went to the kitchen to see her grandmother preparing the turkey. Evelyn was cooking with tears in her eyes. She wiped them away with her hand and continued rubbing herbs into the turkey. Grandma, are you okay? Samantha approached and asked. Evelyn turned around, surprised. Yes, I was just cutting onions. However, Samantha looked around the kitchen counter. There were no onions. Did something happen? She asked gently. Is there anything I can help with? Evelyn was about to answer when Laura entered. Mom, how's the turkey? Laura asked. You're making it with the special recipe, right? Evelyn nodded silently. Her hands were trembling slightly. Special recipe? Samantha couldn't contain her curiosity. It's a family secret, Laura smiled. This year we've added special ingredients. Especially for Mom and Jillian. As dinner time approached, the Morrison mansion was filled with the aroma of cooking. Outside the window, snow was quietly falling, creating a white landscape. Samantha gazed out from the second-floor window, battling an uneasy feeling. Samantha, Jillian entered the room. She was already dressed for dinner, wearing a navy blue dress. Are you ready? Dinner will be soon. Mom, Samantha approached her mother and whispered, have you noticed anything strange? What do you mean? Jillian stared intently at her daughter's face. Grandma is hiding something. And Laura, too. There's something between them. Jillian took a deep breath. Samantha, family relationships are complicated. Especially when people have lived together for years. I think it's more than that, Samantha insisted. Grandpa seems really down, and Grandma always goes quiet whenever Aunt Laura comes in. Jillian put her hand on Samantha's shoulder. You're very observant. I've felt something was off too, but... She trailed off. Let's just get through today peacefully. We'll be home tomorrow. Jillian. Samantha. Laura's voice echoed from downstairs. Everyone's waiting. The dining room was decorated for Thanksgiving. The table featured brass candlesticks, colorful fall leaf decorations, and elaborate dishes. A large turkey was placed in the center, surrounded by side dishes. Everyone, please be seated, Evelyn smiled, though tension was visible on her face. This year's turkey is special. Jillian and Samantha sat side by side, with Walter at the head of the table, Evelyn next to him, and Laura across from Jillian. Evelyn began carving the turkey with trembling hands. This looks like it's going to be a wonderful meal, Jillian said, trying to ease the tension. Mom, you really outdo yourself with Thanksgiving cooking every year. Mom is the best chef, Laura agreed. She said while staring at Evelyn, you worked especially hard this year, didn't you? Evelyn nodded silently. She returned to her seat and placed her hand on Walter's shoulder. Walter stared at the food with a vacant expression. Let's eat, Laura declared. She quickly took food onto her plate and had a bite. Delicious. Dad, please go ahead. Walter began eating mechanically. However, Samantha noticed that he didn't seem to be tasting anything. His eyes were hollow, his movements sluggish. Samantha looked at her own plate. She didn't touch any of the food served. Instead, she took out her smartphone and began staring at the screen. Samantha, no phones at the dinner table, Laura admonished. Just a moment, Samantha said, continuing to stare at her phone. Jillian, didn't you teach your daughter table manners? Laura said sarcastically. Samantha, Aunt Laura is right, Jillian said gently. The phone can wait. However, Samantha didn't take her eyes off the screen. She was tapping it with quiet sounds. Laura whispered to Evelyn, give Jillian a special portion. Evelyn complied with trembling hands. Samantha, pretending to look at her phone, overheard this conversation. Her heart was racing. Jillian watched as Evelyn served a portion of the turkey onto her plate. Thank you, Mom. Why aren't you eating, Samantha? Laura asked. Her voice was sweet, but her eyes were cold. Don't you like Grandma's cooking? Samantha remained silent, staring at her phone. My niece must be a picky eater, Laura laughed, telling Evelyn. Perhaps our elaborate cooking doesn't suit her. Evelyn silently stared at the table. Her hands trembled in her lap. Mom, the turkey is delicious, Jillian said. She poked the meat with her fork and was about to bring it to her mouth. At that moment, Samantha quickly sent a message on her phone. Then she stared intently at her mother. Jillian's phone buzzed in her pocket. One notification, the screen displayed. Jillian put down her fork and took out her phone. She opened the message and read its contents. Mom, don't eat the turkey under any circumstances. Jillian's eyes widened. She looked at Samantha. Her daughter's eyes were filled with fear and tension. Is something wrong? Laura asked. There was anxiety in her voice. Just a work message, Jillian feigned calmness. Let me check it. She stood up, phone in hand. Samantha, can you help me with something? Samantha quickly stood up as well. In the middle of family time? Laura said, clearly irritated. Can't you ignore work messages? We'll be right back, Jillian said. She took Samantha out of the room. Once in the hallway, Jillian pulled Samantha into the bathroom. She closed the door and locked it. What's happening? She asked in a low voice. Why shouldn't I eat? Samantha said with a trembling voice. Aunt Laura said, give Jillian a special portion. And Grandma's expression, it was scary. You think she put something in the turkey? I don't know. But I saw Grandma cooking with tears in her eyes. And Aunt Laura was watching her the whole time. Jillian took a deep breath. This is... Suddenly, there was a knock on the bathroom door. Jillian? Samantha. It was Laura's voice. Are you all right? Jillian and Samantha looked at each other. Fear passed between them. We're fine, Jillian called out. Samantha's feeling a bit ill. We'll be back soon. Can I help? Laura's voice had a hint of urgency. No, we're fine. Don't worry. The sound of Laura's footsteps receded. What do we do? Samantha asked. Jillian gripped her daughter's shoulders firmly. Listen, Samantha. We're going to go back now and act as if nothing is wrong. But don't eat anything, understand? Samantha nodded. And if anything strange happens, come to me immediately. The two quietly left the bathroom and returned to the dining room. At the table, Evelyn sat silently, and Walter was in a daze. Laura waited for their return with a tense expression. How are you feeling? Laura asked Samantha. A bit better, Samantha answered. But I still don't have an appetite. I see, Laura's eyes narrowed. Jillian, you should eat while it's still warm. We prepared it specially. What do you mean? Jillian questioned sharply. Suddenly, Walter began to cough. He clutched his chest painfully. Dad. Evelyn rose in surprise and rubbed her husband's back. Walter's breathing became labored, and he nearly slipped from his chair. Grandpa. Samantha cried out. She rushed to her grandfather's side. Jillian also moved quickly, supporting Walter. Dad. Are you okay? Call an ambulance. Evelyn shouted. In the midst of the chaos, Samantha ran to the kitchen, searching for her grandmother's medicine box. Opening a drawer, she quickly found it. Inside were various medications, sleeping pills, anti-anxiety drugs, and a small bottle containing a mysterious white powder. It had no label. Mom. Look at this. Samantha called out. Jillian entered the kitchen and saw the medicine box Samantha was holding. Her face paled. This is. Laura gives it to Grandpa every day, Samantha said. And today. A scream from the living room brought them back. When they returned, Walter had collapsed on the floor, with Evelyn kneeling beside him. Laura stood motionless, leaning against the wall. Her expression was unreadable. Evelyn's eyes were full of tears. Suddenly, she broke down crying. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Jillian embraced her mother's shoulders. Mom, what happened? Tell me what happened. Evelyn said with a trembling voice, Laura has been controlling us for years. She resents you, Jillian. She can't forgive your success. Walter lay on the floor, with Evelyn holding his hand. Jillian explained the situation to emergency responders on the phone, while Samantha watched silently. Laura had disappeared into the kitchen. Jillian hung up and approached her mother. Mom, what's going on? What is this powder? Evelyn covered her face with trembling hands. It's because I was weak. Laura. Laura returned from the kitchen. Her expression had regained composure. The ambulance is coming. Good. Dad just had his chronic condition worsen. Nothing to worry about. Chronic condition? Jillian asked. What chronic condition does Dad have? You just don't know, Laura said coldly. You only come once a year. You don't know our daily life. The ambulance arrived, and paramedics placed Walter on a stretcher. Evelyn tried to get into the ambulance with her husband. I'm going too, Laura declared. No, Jillian grabbed her sister's arm. You're staying here to explain what's happening. Laura shook off Jillian's hand. What are you saying? Dad is in a critical condition. What is this powder that Samantha found? Jillian pulled out the small bottle. Why was Mom crying? Why did I need to be warned not to eat the turkey? Laura's eyes flashed dangerously. You're being paranoid. That's just a seasoning. Mom got emotional, that's all. It happens when you get older. The ambulance departed, leaving the three of them alone. Jillian and Samantha sat on the sofa, while Laura sat in the chair across from them. A heavy silence fell. I've always wondered, Jillian finally spoke. Why Mom and Dad changed. Dad was always active, always spoke his mind. Mom was a strong woman. But in recent years, they've both become as quiet as shadows. They're getting older, Laura repeated. That's all. No, that's not it, Samantha suddenly said. She was holding her grandmother's medicine box. There are lots of sleeping pills and anti-anxiety medications in here. All prescribed in Grandpa and Grandma's names. But there are prescriptions from different doctors with different dates. Why would they need medications for the same symptoms from multiple doctors? Laura stood up and tried to snatch the medicine box from Samantha. That's not my property. Give it back. But Jillian leaned forward and protected the box. This is my mother's medication. Not yours. I know because I take care of them. Laura shouted. It's none of your business. Jillian suddenly recalled childhood memories. When she won awards at school and her father proudly celebrated, Laura became furious and locked herself in her room. When her mother tried to reassure Laura that Laura is just as special, Laura shouted, "Liar. You only care about Jillian." When she went to college on a scholarship, Laura spread rumors to their parents, saying Jillian is selfish. She chose her career over family. And gradually, Laura began to take a controlling attitude toward their mother, and their father became increasingly quiet. "Samantha, your instincts were right," Jillian said quietly. "But how do we prove it?" "We can have the powder tested," Samantha suggested. "And get Grandma to tell us the truth." "Don't be ridiculous," Laura shouted. Her calm facade was beginning to crumble. "You're trying to destroy the family." "Always. Jillian left and abandoned me. And now Samantha is attacking me too." "What are you talking about?" Jillian was confused. "I left for college." "That's natural, isn't it? You were always treated specially." Laura trembled with anger. "Smart, talented, always praised. What was I? Just second best, a shadow. Dad and Mom were always all about you." "That's not true," Jillian said. "Mom and Dad loved us both equally." "Lies." Tears welled in Laura's eyes. "So I decided to change the situation myself. After you left, little by little." Samantha's phone rang. She looked at the screen. "It's from Grandma. Come to the hospital. We need to talk." "Don't tell Laura." Jillian looked at Laura. Her sister had slumped onto the sofa. "Samantha, go upstairs and pack. We're going to the hospital right away." Samantha nodded and went up the stairs. "What have you done?" Jillian asked Laura. "Nothing," Laura muttered. "Just stayed where I belonged. With family." "Were you threatening Mom and Dad? Controlling them with drugs?" "They had to listen to me." Laura suddenly blurted out. "After you left, I decided to take charge of this house. But they, especially Dad, kept talking about you. If Jillian were here, Jillian would. I couldn't stand it." "So you started controlling them?" Jillian's voice trembled with horror and sadness. "It started small," Laura said with a distant look. "Just mixing a little sleeping medicine into Dad's pills. That would make him quiet. Then, Mom too, she was rebellious. And today." "Today?" Laura began to laugh. A creepy, hollow laugh. "It was time to eliminate you. If you died, I would be the only one left. The perfect daughter." Jillian gasped. "What did you put in the turkey?" "A special recipe," Laura smiled. "I forced Mom to make it. She resisted but, ultimately obeyed. As always." Samantha's footsteps could be heard coming down the stairs. "I'm ready, Mom." Jillian stood up. "I'm going to give this powder to the police. And hear the truth from Mom and Dad." "No one will believe you," Laura said. She suddenly seemed to regain her composure. "I'm the perfect daughter. An exemplary citizen in the community. You're the one who abandoned the family. Whose word do you think will be trusted? The truth will always come to light." Jillian took Samantha's hand and headed for the front door. "Laura." Opening the door, they found two police officers standing there. "Are you Jillian Morrison?" one officer asked. "We received a call from Evelyn Morrison. May we come in?" Jillian sighed with relief. "Yes, please. I have something to tell you. Something very important." The hallway of Maine General Hospital was quiet. Most people should have been spending time with their families. Jillian and Samantha sat quietly in a waiting room surrounded by white walls. A few hours ago, their lives had changed completely. The door opened, and a doctor appeared. "Ms. Morrison, your father is stable. Drug tests show evidence of long-term overuse of sleeping pills and sedatives. Fortunately, today's acute poisoning was treated early." "Thank you," Jillian sighed with relief. "And my mother?" "Your mother is in your father's room. You can see them now." Jillian and Samantha quietly entered the hospital room. Evelyn was sitting by Walter's bedside, holding his hand. She turned around, and upon seeing her daughter and granddaughter, tears welled up. "Jillian. Samantha," she said with a trembling voice. "I'm so sorry." Jillian sat next to her mother and embraced her shoulders. "Mom, did you tell the police everything?" Evelyn nodded. "Laura had been controlling us for years. Manipulating Walter's medication, threatening me to make me obey. She resented you. Why didn't you ask for help?" "I was ashamed," Evelyn covered her face. "To think that my own daughter would do such things. And Laura threatened me, saying, if you seek help, it will bring shame to the family. She was respected in the community, and she said no one would believe me. But this time was different," Samantha said quietly. Evelyn gazed at Samantha. Her face seemed brighter, as if freed from years of fear. "When you were a child, I couldn't protect you," she said to Jillian. "When Laura was jealous of your talents and tried to hurt you, I couldn't stop her. This time, Samantha saved you." Jillian hugged her mother. "The past is past. Let's live honestly from now on." The hospital room door opened, and a detective entered. "Excuse me. Laura Morrison has been arrested. Evidence has also been seized from the residence. We'll need formal statements from all of you." A few weeks later, in the courthouse hallway, Jillian was speaking with a lawyer. "Laura will undergo a psychiatric evaluation. The diagnosis is severe narcissistic personality disorder. Unfortunately, she continues to justify her actions." "Can I see her?" Jillian asked. "If you wish, a visit is possible. However." Entering the courtroom, Laura sat in the defendant's chair. Her clothes and hair were perfect, but her eyes were empty. As the judge entered, Laura stood up. "Without me, that family would have fallen apart. I was the one supporting them," she suddenly shouted. "I was the only one who understood them." Jillian looked at her sister and felt deep pity. "Maybe she just wanted to be loved," she whispered to Samantha. 1 year later, on Thanksgiving, Jillian's apartment was filled with warm light. Along with her parents, who had regained their health, they were starting a new tradition. A turkey was placed on the table, surrounded by simple but heartfelt dishes. "I've decided to visit Laura's facility tomorrow," Jillian said. "If you want to see her, come along." "Really?" Samantha asked in surprise. "Even after what she did?" "She's still part of our family," Jillian answered quietly. "Nothing is solved by hatred. True family isn't about control, but about everyone being able to be themselves," Samantha remarked. They held hands and offered a prayer of thanksgiving. The turkey on the table was this time filled only with love. At dusk, a woman sat by the window in a psychiatric facility. Laura gazed out the window, holding a small framed family photo. Her expression no longer showed the former coldness, there was a slight change visible, the first step toward understanding. The setting sun in the distance gently illuminated her face, suggesting the beginning of a new day.